Nathan, when you were talking about being lit up, that's what I call passion. And I love what you're sharing today. What do you work with youth a lot. What do you think is the most important thing to teach the youth of today?
Well, a few nights ago I attended a talk from a Lummi man who'd come over from the mainland and give kind of a presentation, a real free form one to the community here about his life, and the title was on 5 generations, and he spoke about his grandkids all the way up to his grandparents, and I got to ask him at the end what he thought the most important thing that we should be teaching to kids these days was. And he kind of looked me in the eye, and he told me that I already knew, I guess. I think it was kind of a way of saying it's a little bit of an unquantifiable thing. But his wife was also in the audience and took the opportunity to say some very wise things, but she brought that back up and she said respect. Respect was the single most important thing to make sure children grow up with these days, and I tend to agree with her. My own business, I started, it's called Reverence Permaculture, and I chose the word reverence, I think for the same reason she chose the word respect, and I don't want to add to what she had said or subtract to it at all, but both words infer a level of not being the authority on something, a level of knowing that you have a responsibility to care about something else and its own authority, in a sense. That's probably not the right word to use, but its own right. It's not enough to know science if you don't care. It's not enough to have education and skills and all these things if you don't put them to service in the right way. And so yeah, it's not enough to tolerate each other. We have to genuinely care about and revere and be fascinated by each other and by the real world. It's just not enough to be tolerant. We have to love each other. And she was in particular, they have 2 grandsons that I think she was really referring to, and how respectful they are and how good that feels to her. And I'm very fortunate with the kids that I work with that they tend to be amazing. I couldn't hand pick a better crew to work with last summer, and they are respectful and they do care, and they've grown up out on an island off the coast of Washington, so they're not hemmed in by concrete in every direction, and I think that's a good thing. But yeah, reverence. You've got to go out and I think reverence is a thing that's kind of imposed on you rather than you just say you feel. Back to that thing about you kind of have to be interdependent with nature in order to really be connected to it. It's got to feed you, not figuratively. It's got to feed your mouth, and if you really want to be on that level with it, and yeah. So I think that's maybe another word for passion as well.
Who were the people when you were a youth or a younger man that influenced you, had impact on your life?
Yeah, my grandparents, for one, especially my grandfather, who I'm lucky enough to still have. He's my last remaining grandparent. He's really lit up by hunting and fishing, and taking other people out, taking his grandkids out. And I think I was raised in a way to not ever take that for granted. And it's not because, you know, any speech he gave or talk about the environment or anything like that. He just himself he was elk hunting last year, and he's 88 years old now or something like that. And he's unfortunately, his health has gotten to the point where he can't do that. But I know it tears him up more than anything not being able to do it. And so my grandfather, my father, same thing. You know, he was a hunter. I got to go out with him and watch him bow hunt, or, you know, practice in the backyard growing up. And my mother bringing me out to pick huckleberries, and with my sisters when we were kids, and it was just kind of a part of growing up, I think. And I was fortunate enough, maybe 13 or 14 years old, we moved out onto some land and got horses, and I was comfortable enough in the woods to go out, build my own campsite, and spend half my time back there, you know, doing homework after school or something. So I think that was what got me started. Barring, you know, you still have a youth left to do that with as your own person. There's been quite a few authors that I really highly recommend. Tom Brown Jr. and John Young are really are on another plane, and a good place to start. What the Robin Knows is a fantastic book on learning how to do the practice of a sit spot, like I spoke about earlier. Tom Brown Jr. is just every child should be reading his first book, The Tracker. That's how everybody should be growing up. Bill Mollison did a lot of work on permaculture. He wrote quite a few very hefty books, if you can still find them. Big fan of Wendell Berry. There's a lot of beautiful stuff out there. Rumi, Hafez, any of that, you know, any of their poetry, just anything that turns you on and opens you up, as opposed to maybe feeding too much into your confirmation bias and just telling you stuff that you want to hear. It's probably a good way to go. Yeah.
So, what do you have coming up? Projects?
Well, I like I said, I teach a lot of courses and classes. There's the Lopez Island Family Resource Center asks me to do a number of classes every year, and this year we're going to expand on some that I did for elementary school kids last summer. I'm going to do a week-long course on outdoor living skills with kind of older elementary school kids, and then I'm going to do a class again called The Flow of Nature, which is more for younger ages. And the first one is geared kind of skill heavy towards being able to go out and find yourself in a situation most people wouldn't be comfortable with and make it comfortable. And then the Flow of Nature one is, I try to make it as unacademic as possible, and just about going out and experiencing all your senses and blindfolding each other and leading each other around out in the fields and stuff like that, and paying attention to hearing and your feet on the ground and things like that. And aside from that, if people want to contact me, I'm happy to teach or talk on or communicate or email or whatever, anytime. And that's enjoyable for me in a big way to connect with people on that. So
If people want more information on anything, what would you suggest? A website or something?
Well, I've email reverencepermaculture@gmail.com. It's a great way to get a hold of me. I'm pretty much a Luddite, so I don't have a website yet. Although my girlfriend is threatening to to put one together for me. So that'll come eventually, but shoot me an email. I'm super happy to contact people. reverencepermaculture@gmail.com. Yeah, things. I really enjoy teaching and experiencing things with people, and happy to help.
Well, I've enjoyed our time today. Thanks for coming, Nathan, and
Yeah.
right.
Thank you, Brenda. This has been
Thank you.
wonderful. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.